You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now we have our guests here with us in the studios for the second topic, and they are from the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN, which of course has responsibility for regulating the education, training, and practice of engineering in all ramifications. Let's welcome three guests. First, Professor Sadiq Abubakar. Sadiq Zubair Abubakar. He's president of COREN and chairman of council. We're glad to have you in the studios this morning.
Good morning, viewers.
Okay. Also here with us is Professor Adisa Ademola Bello, is the registrar of COREN. Professor Adisa, we're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay. And Engineer Olaolu Ogunduile, vice president of COREN and chairman of the organizing committee of the 31st COREN Engineering Assembly. We're glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
And they are all, I should also add, fellows of the Nigerian Society of Engineers.
Yes, all of them.
Do you mind?
Yes. So, gentlemen, let me begin with Professor Sadiq Zubair Abubakar. What brings COREN to our studio this morning?
Thank you very much. We are here to formally usher in our annual events, the Engineering Assembly, as it has been said. We are commencing the 31st Engineering Assembly today, which is a 3-day event whereby engineers, technicians, technologists, craftsmen that are practicing in Nigeria and even in diaspora usually comes together and review our activities for 1 year and identify gaps and formulate interventions that will improve our practices so as to be able to serve more diligently in our profession for our country and even beyond. So usually this is something that we call assembly that comprises of basically 3 key events. A general assembly that we hold tomorrow, whereby we have dignitaries that will come and we speak to an important issue. In this year, we are looking at our code of conduct of practice. How do we strengthen that and entrench more deeply how our registered practitioners across the country perform their practices of engineering? And the second major activity is what you call the Engineering Family Forum, whereby the 4 categories that we have. You know, COREN is an umbrella of 4 different professionals: the engineers, the technologists, the technicians, and the craftsmen. Each of these professionals have what you call associations. Like we have the NSE for the engineers, we have NTA for the technologies, we have NICED for the technicians, and we have NAEC for the craftsmen, and we have what you call ACEN, you know, the association for the consulting engineers. Now usually these 4 or 5, COREN usually, you know, invite them with other key stakeholders like MAN, like ITF, like, you know, SON. We sit down and we look into 1 or 2 issues that we believe is creating some hindrances for our professionals to practice. This year we also have created what we call a blended kind of practice where our colleagues in diaspora, because we have registered professional engineers, technologists that are practicing in other climes all over the world, and they have requested that they want to partake and participate in such annual events. So this year we are also having a virtual perspective of that. Those that are not available physically in Nigeria can join and participate. And so at the end of the day, we usually pull out what we call resolutions that will talk to some key issues that will be able to improve the standard and quality of our services, looking at the upstream right from education, like Kingsley said, the educational aspect where you train, at the university level, at the polytechnic level, at the more technical level and even at technical colleges level, down to the trainings and then the practicing. So basically, this is what we are going to have this week.
All right. Thank you very much, President of COREN. Let's bring in the registrar now, Professor Adisa Ademola Bello. The President has already ticked off some of the key highlights of the conference, but tell our viewers some more. Where is the conference taking place, and what is the duration of the conference, and who are the expected participants?
Thank you very much. The conference is taking place at the International Conference Center here in Abuja. Today, Monday, from 8 o'clock right to 6 o'clock p.m., participants will be registering. We have online registration. Those who have already registered by now, their materials are ready. So what they do today is to pick them up. Tomorrow we'll have the opening ceremony. The opening ceremony is also going to be in the International Conference Center. We are expecting the President of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Tinubu, to be the special guest at the event. We're hoping also that the Vice President will also be at that event. The chairman of that event is the MD of Wema Bank, Mr. Maruf Oseni, and we expect that all MDAs that are involved in engineering practices will be present. Chiefly, we expect that our host, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Works and Housing, will be the host of the meeting, and the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Capital Territory will also be a co-host of that meeting. We also expect that the board chairman of engineering institution in Ghana will be our lead speaker. So we're looking at an international perspective to what we'll be discussing. We hope that at the family forum, we'll rub minds a little bit different from what we are used to. In the past, we normally bring the practitioners to tell us what they have done. We discuss our issues, challenges, and profile ways forward. But this time, we're looking a little bit different because there are some new things that have come up. Chiefly, the fact that COREN will no longer be sponsored by will not be part of budget of the Federal Republic. So we're asking our practitioners to come sit with us. Let's chat a new way. What are the things that we need to do to be able to be sustainable in Nigeria? We'll be doing that also at the International Conference Center. We're rounding up, God willing, on that Wednesday, the 9th of August, with a dinner where all the practitioners will unwind from what we have done, hopefully between today, Monday, right through to that Wednesday.
Indeed, you will need definitely to unwind. Every conference has a theme. What is your theme for this year, and why did you choose the theme?
Yeah, we are looking at the theme as you have actually mentioned, that entrenching and strengthening engineering practitioners, code of conduct, and the resilience in engineering practice in Nigeria. Because if you look at it, every nation, every clime has code of conduct. If we are entrenching engineering practice, we need to know, we need to have a standard. We need to look at what are the codes. If you want to supervise, you must look at the areas and codes of what you need to practice. For instance, if you are having a site, maybe as a construction site, you need to have the cadres of engineers that will be there. There will be an engineer, there will be a technologist, there will be a technician, there will be a craftsman. So code of that, apart from that, the materials and the strength and all the things that you have to do, we need to look at them so that actually we can now re-energize ourselves to see that things are done properly. And like the registrar said, we need to evaluate matters of mutual interest that will actually help us to enhance the growth of engineering in this country.
Well, that's fine. Code of conduct for engineering practice is a very significant one against the backdrop of some of the challenges we've been having with engineering matters. I know that the usual response is that it is quacks that are involved. Structural collapses, no, this is the business of quacks. They didn't engage such persons. what will you be looking at in strengthening the regulation of engineering? I can't just, I'm not an engineer, for instance, so I would need an engineer to supervise my project. So what is it you're seeking to do instead of often running into a corner and say, no, those are quacks. A bridge collapses in Abuja, in Kano, in Port Harcourt, in Onitsha, everywhere, all over, and everybody keeps looking at saying, look, maybe just what are Nigerian engineers doing? President.
Thank you. Thank you. The essence of usually what we call the code of conduct or practice is in every profession is what we call the documented or prepared developed benchmarks. You must have code and standards. And then from there, you stem out what we call the code of practice. And then you also follow with enforcement of compliance. And if there are breaches, you now apply the sanctions. Now, this is the value chain of every regulatory processes. Now, in our case, we have x-rayed this process and we have identified gaps. For instance, if the building, let me take the building industry, which you just said as an example. The nation is yet to have what we call the National Building Code. It was initiated, but it was not concluded. So when you want to talk about collapse of building, the first thing you must interrogate is, where are the code and standard in the building industry? When you have that, you may need to disaggregate that. Is a building residential or industrial or whatever? These are different. This will demand for different building codes and standards. And then therefrom, like the Vice President mentioned, when you go to a building site, for instance, in Abuja here or anywhere, we are developing the procedures of when you are having a new building site, you need to give it a number. This is number so, in serial kind of numbering, so that you track how many building sites you have, for instance, in Abuja. And then we have our protocols. There is what we call ERM. It's a team, engineering regulatory monitoring. In each state or in each place like Abuja, we have the ERM team. We want to review the procedure. How do they do the siting? How do they monitor the site? Like you said, when you go to the site, there is what we call the checklist on personnel. Do we have the right personnel? Are they registered? Are they having the competencies? For instance, if you have a civil engineer, taking the responsibility of a structural engineer, to us, that is in what we call in-house quackery. If you have an electrical engineer that taking the responsibility of a mechanical engineer on a building site, is in-house quackery. And there is the outright quackery whereby non-professional who is not qualified to be an engineer and who has not even registered as the practice is also carrying out these responsibilities. So there are many levels of quackeries. And so this year's assembly is trying to really look deeper into these procedures such that we'll be able to now fill the gaps. Okay. In each discipline, in each, for example, this is industry sector. If you look at the oil and gas sector, the telecommunication sector, the mining sector, all those sectors, they are supposed to have similar treatment, code and standards, code of conduct, enforcement and compliance, and then sanction. This is the way.
Juma, I just needed to point this out. We may not have time to get into it. I just checked now. The National Building Code was signed by former President Obasanjo, I understand, in 2006, 2007. So there's a National Building Code, just to correct that. Yes. But very quickly, I don't know, you want to pop a question. Let me throw this in, because you talked about the Engineering Family Forum you're going to have, which will be rounded off with a dinner. Do you intend, for instance, to discuss on the issue that has come up on Good Morning Nigeria, namely, when are we going to have increased Nigerian content, engineering content, in major engineering projects going on in the country? by having consortia. Consortia, instead of only one-man business, you know, come here and be consultant, this one, the other one is on. Where will you have big Nigerian engineering firms to handle major projects, instead of us every time going outside to go and bring foreigners and then get our when you go to the sites, you see them, your construction site, building sites.
The Dangote refinery. The
Dangote refinery.
11,000
persons hired from India. 11,000, you know, persons hired. Although those are technicians and technologists and so on and so forth.
Yes.
We were told that. So is this an issue you are going to discuss? We had good construction firms in Nigeria in the past. Oni and Sons, it was a good one in the western region. So what happened? That, you know, Nigerian engineers would, with the greatest respect, appear to be playing second fiddle.
Thank you very much. These are issues that must be discussed. These are issues on the table that we are going to discuss. I feel very, very sad when I heard what happened at the Dangote refinery. And it shows that we are lacking somewhere. But the truth about it is not that we are actually lacking. We actually have these professionals that are on ground, but to some extent, they have not been identified. If we don't have professionals, I'm sure you must have heard it. Just this June, the International Engineering Alliance gave Nigeria a clean breath to say that what we are teaching, what we are training on engineers in Nigeria is comparable to the elite group of the Washington Accord. And we have been admitted so. The very second in the entire African continent. It's a plus for us. And that shows that we are actually doing it. But how can we identify these people that are actually practicing that don't come to the fore? One of them is the political will. You'll discover that if a project is given and Nigerian companies are actually bidding for those projects, they hardly get it. Even with the executive order 5 that the president signed into law, we're still having, you know, a problem of implementation. So I think it is the political will. That is one. And one of the things that we're going to be discussing at this conference is to ensure that those gaps that we have identified, how do we fill them up? Because we're really concerned. And I can assure you it will be part of what we're going to be discussing at the Family Forum come Wednesday this week.
Exactly.
Before the dinner.
Before the dinner. Of course, there's a lot of concerns. And he raised some issues, you know, a mechanical engineer going in to work for an electrical engineer. And we've had issues of building collapse. A lot of people have died from these issues. What sanctions are there for engineers who step out of their speciality into another person's specialty, which is what causes,
particularly some of your members who are working in development control offices. In development control, they are supposed to supervise these things. I'm sure it's not a matter of just going there to place an X in red ink. If a building collapses, where were the engineers in development control that probably looked the other way while the construction was going on?
Yes. So what are the sanctions, and is there any way that maybe license will be suspended or anything? How do you penalize them?
Engineer Gudule.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that question. I think recently there was actually a meeting in Lagos which I attended, and first and foremost, Nigeria need to be educated. They're engineers, they're technologists, they're technicians, and also they're craftsmen. Where I discussed at that meeting that first and foremost, there are people that call themselves engineers, and they are not having their name in current register. We have they give us the names, we check, some of them are not there. The clients and those people, the people that are developing, they need to check with COREN who is this person before you give your job to them. So when you, first of all, because COREN has a name, has also a number, registered number for each cadre of engineers. And when COREN checked, and COREN is able to identify that these people, they are authentic engineers, and they are registered with COREN, that time you'll be able to say, okay, I want to penalize. But when you have decades. We checked all the 7-story building that happened in Lagos recently. We couldn't even find more than maybe one of them. But of course, COREN as an establishment, we have disciplinary action that we take. We need to investigate to ensure, first and foremost, the guy is registered, and then we need to actually check what he has done. And then, if actually is found wanting, obviously it will be disciplined. License will be suspended, and that discipline action has to be meted on that particular individual.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. We have to round up. Time is not on our side. But thank you so much for your input into the conversation. Let me begin. Engineer Olaolu Ogunduyele is the president of COREN and vice president and chairman organizing committee of the 31st COREN Engineering Assembly. Thank you so much for coming. Professor Adisa Ademola Bello, registrar of COREN. Appreciate your input. Professor Sadiq Zubair Abubakar, president of COREN. Thank you so much for coming. We wish you all the best at the conference.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thanks so much for watching. I am Jummai Yusuf.
Join us again tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.